right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to TLD Cast. I am your guest host for today, Joseph Suarez, and we are going to be talking about working out loud. So I don't have a formal presentation for today. It's just going to be an informal discussion between us. So audience participation is strongly encouraged. So if you're familiar with working out loud, great, you can add to the discussion. But if you're here today just to kind of learn what it could be and what the benefits could be, no worries. We're going to be getting into a lot of that as well. So I just want to kick things off with a question here, which would be, how would you define working out loud? So go ahead and add that into the chat, if you will. And while people are hopefully doing that, I'm just going to tell you what the opposite of working out loud would be, which would be working in silence. So you could be working alone and by yourself in a vacuum, or even as a team, but you're really siloed away from the rest of the organization. So in either case, you're kind of structured in a way that you're not really sharing your work or your expertise with others, maybe not collaborating as much as you could or should, and possibly not asking for help as much as you could or should either. So if you reverse that, I've kind of given you the definition of working out loud, but just scanning the chat here, Kara says that working out loud is iterations of work that you get feedback on. I like that. Janine says, describe what you're doing as you go and what your thought process is. Q says, getting strange looks from coworkers in surrounding cubes. I'm not sure what kind of working out loud you're doing, but that might be the case. We are collaborating. Kim says, does yelling at your computer screen count? Again, depends what kind of working out loud you're doing. Very well could. Kate says, communicating what you are doing, whether by blog, video, LinkedIn, or showing your work as you go, rather than writing for the end. I like that definition very much. Trish says, sharing what you're doing, getting and giving feedback, making it better. Awesome. These are all great definitions. Deborah says, the work at home version is that my daughter is making fun of me for sitting in my office talking to myself. I can't imagine what young children must think of us all now that we're working from home. Those are all great definitions. Thank you. My favorite mishmashed definition is narrating your work and intentionally making it visible for others. And the goal of that would be to increase collaboration and the exchange of knowledge. So if you have a different definition, if you think it's, or you've thought of it as something different, please let us know in the chat, because it's a very amorphous term. It's a phrase that somebody put some meaning around and we're just kind of running with it. It doesn't really have a concrete definition. It can be many things. And speaking of which, don't quote me on this, but I believe the history of the popularization of working out loud was that a guy named John Stepper wrote a book with that title, Working Out Loud. And you can find his resources at workingoutloud.com. I'll put in the chat. Hopefully I got that URL right. So yeah, he's obviously written a book. He's spoken a bunch about it. And his definition, I think, is more around, and I haven't read the book to be completely transparent, but I've heard him speak and I've kind of read a few synopsises of his book. And I think that it's largely centered around creating like mini communities of practice that are committed to narrating, being more collaborative and narrating your work. Another resource that I do happen to have and have at least skimmed through is Jane Bozarth's Show Your Work. And this is a book I got from my local library. It was written in 2014. Some of the examples might be showing their age a little, but I do think it's a good book that is centered around the concept of working out loud, and it has some really good case studies in there as well. Because it's Jane Bozarth, Jane Bozarth, and she's in the industry. It has a slight L&D bent and some bits at the end that are centered around learning and development. So that's a resource as well. And if you know of other resources, go ahead and type them in the chat as well. Let's see if there's anything else to report from the chat. Kate says, I like it because it gives some accountability, especially for personal development. That is definitely a good benefit of working out loud. Okay. Deborah says, we recently lost a preceptor training program. I work in healthcare, she says, and one strategy I've been talking about with them is having their new hire talk through their thought process regarding the diagnosis. Yep, speaking out loud through your process is a great way to reinforce learning, as we hopefully know as instructional designers. And teaching something has that weird way of forcing us to think in a different way, and that reinforces our own learning as well as obviously helping others learn. And Kara says that Jonathan Hill has a resource. Well, it's basically a case study, and Working Out Loud is where Jonathan did a year straight of articulate e-learning hero challenges. So if you're not familiar, the company that makes the e-learning authoring tool Storyline hosts some challenges where every week they come out and say, give people a challenge to basically build not necessarily a course, but like sections of a course, pages of a course, or do something with features of tools like Storyline. And Jonathan did 52 weeks straight of that at least. And so that's a great case study in Working Out Loud. Okay. So we hit on this a little bit, but the benefits of working out loud. What have you guys experienced for those of you that have worked out loud, or you've seen others do it as well? Kara's had a great example there. Are there others that you guys can think of that you've either done personally or seen from others? And Deborah had that great example as well. So anything else, type it in the chat and I'll be sure to share. Kara's tempting me to plug my YouTube channel. We'll get there. We'll get there. So when we think of the benefits of working out loud, it kind of is in two parts. There's what we personally get as the person that's sharing our work, working out loud, and also the organizations we're in get benefits as well. So I want to talk about both of those, but again, if you guys have examples, let us know. Dan says it helps others to learn from your successes and failures. Absolutely. Why have others go through and make the same mistakes and learn things the hard way when we can learn from each other's mistakes? Kate says, I did 10 micro learning pieces in 10 days challenge. Ooh, I didn't know that was a challenge. That sounds pretty cool. And she reported it in her personal blog and on LinkedIn. Awesome. If you could share a URL or something like that where people could check it out, go ahead and do that. That sounds pretty cool. Kara says, I also think speaking at conferences is a great opportunity to work out loud. I learn just as much from the audience as they learn from me. Yeah, again, we may be experts in different things. We all have strengths and weaknesses and expertise in fields. And if you're enough of an expert to get accepted to speak at a conference, and again, when you're teaching others, you have to reframe things in a different way that reinforces your own learning. And obviously you can help others learn things by presenting at conferences as well. It can definitely be an example of working out loud. And speaking of conferences, the e-learning guild kicked off years and years ago, the Demo Fest, where it's an opportunity for people to share what they've been working on and talk through their process with others. And people can go around to the different tables and chat with folks and ask them, about how did you put that together? What did you do? What did you do here? How did you do that part? Really cool example of, if nothing else, showing your work, but it can also be considered working out loud as well. Okay, Kate put that URL in there. So if you happen to if you're not here live, if you catch the recording, you can scan through the chat and go to her website, which is accidentalhomeschool.com. No, accidentalhomesteader.blog. Okay, awesome. So I mentioned that the benefits come in two phases or two different ways. So there's the benefits to us and the organization. So for us, like we mentioned, we have the opportunity when we work out loud, we can learn things as we go. We can also get help with something we're working on. So we can basically, when you're a novice, the benefit of working out loud is you kind of put out a call for help and you say, hey, I'm working on this. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing. And then other people can come in and watch what you're doing and kind of guide you and help you along. So you definitely learn a lot from others. And then when you're an expert, you have the opportunity to share your expertise with others, and others can learn from you. And like I've mentioned a couple of times now, that can come back and reward you and strengthen your own expertise as well. One of the benefits of working out loud is you gain credibility, which could even make yourself known as an expert in a certain area or a certain topic. So that's definitely a benefit. And I have a few stories, or at least one story around that if we have plenty of time, I'll share. And then another benefit that we get from working out loud from a personal perspective is if we do it right over time and we're documenting our working out loud process, it basically forms a chronicle of the work that we do over time. It's almost like a work journal. And that has the benefit of you can point people to that and say, oh, you know what? I did this a few months back. You can go check out my video where I was doing that. Or it even reduces your own need to go back and relearn something. I don't know if you guys have experienced something like this, but I've posted questions in forums and then I got answers and then I forgot. And I will go do an internet search for that same question like a couple years later, and my own post will pop up. It's like that kind of stuff. So when we work out loud, we reduce the chances of those types of things happening. And working out loud can really lead to a lot of potential opportunities. So it just has a lot of benefits because you're putting yourself out there. And again, if you're building credibility and putting yourself out there as an expert in something, obviously that's going to have a lot of opportunities. But just by meeting and collaborating with people, it's almost like a form of networking in a sense that you can get lots of opportunities from, both internal to an organization and externally as well. All right. I'm good to see a lot of folks here. Tim McClurg says life pro tip, I think is what LPT means. Life pro tip: if you demo at DemoFest, give away your drink tickets before the events. Yes. Lure people to your table as well. I think Kara's secret was that she was right next to the drink table, which definitely is a benefit if you're trying to win DemoFest, is being right there at the drink table. Kim says, our e-learning developers work out loud amongst themselves all the time when we were in the office. Such a benefit for them to collaborate and find the best approaches. Yes. Tim also says, documenting the process makes case studies so much easier to write down the road. So obviously organizations, especially big organizations, have a benefit in documenting. I'm blanking on the term. It's not knowledge bases, something like that. Tools like Confluence and wikis and things like that. So collectively capturing all the knowledge that's in the organization as much as possible through those kind of tools, there's definitely a benefit to that, and could be considered a form of working out loud to use those types of tools. Definitely if you're collaborating with others to create like an entry into a knowledge base like that. Knowledge management, Kim says. Yes, I think that's the term. So that's the benefits for us personally. And then as an organization, we've already hit on a bunch of these, but really it reduces the chance of duplicate work streams. Excuse me. So if we're working in a silo in an organization and there's another silo elsewhere in the organization, we both could be working on the same exact thing or similar work streams and not even know it. So by being more collaborative and breaking down silos, we reduce that chance. And I know from working in a big organization, there were several times where I would come up with a good idea and run it up the flagpole, and my manager and maybe their manager thought it was a great idea and they wanted me to run with it. But the further they ran it up the chain, eventually it would hit this point where someone would know that there's other work happening in another section of the company that was similar enough where they would be like, oh, you know what, we're kind of already doing something like that. So it was either Joe can get plugged in with them, or the idea would just be squashed entirely because they were further along in the process, or they were approaching it differently or something like that. So breaking down those silos by working out loud can reduce the chance for that kind of duplicate work stream. We hit on this, but just capturing that base of knowledge for future reference is another benefit of working out loud. And you can connect talent to where people are needed just by being open and honest about what we're all working on and what our needs are. It's an automatic connection of different talent pools to where the needs are in the organization. And I think this is something that we can all get on board with. If we're openly sharing what we're working on, we can have fewer meetings, because what is the point of most meetings is to give an update on what we're working on, or talk about what we're going to work on, or what we're going to agree to work on. So by working out loud, we can really potentially reduce the need for meetings or have fewer meetings. And I think that's something we can all get on board with. So lots of good discussions in the chat happening. Thank you guys for being for participating so well. Kara says, another pro tip, if you start doing this, you may need to educate stakeholders and the team. Some people can't handle seeing work in progress and may be confused. Yes. And this, goes to the culture of the organization. There may be a, how to define it? Like, people, there's not opportunities to fail, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, things really have to be, when you put something out in the world and say, here's what we're working on, or here's what we've done, there's this expectation that it needs to be as complete as possible or finished. And I've experienced where the joke was that pilot programs are basically the first iteration. Like, there's really no such thing as a pilot program to see if it's going to work or not. Pilot programs aren't meant to fail. And if you work in an organization where failure isn't as accepted as maybe it should be, then that's kind of the result you get. And that can definitely hinder putting yourself out there to the point where you're saying, this isn't quite finished yet, but here's where I'm at and I could use some help. So yeah, that's a good point. Like, not every situation lends itself to working out loud. There are definitely some things where, you know what, this is something where maybe we should keep this under wraps for right now, not really share to the world that this is what we're working on, or share to the world that we're not quite done with things yet. But for the most part, at least among your internal team, working out loud can be very beneficial, I believe. Okay, Kim says yes, definitely. She agrees with Kara's point that letting stakeholders know is key. Even though I was doing the challenge on my own, the marketing department freaked out. Yes, it's yeah. The more people you have to get involved, the more chance that somebody's going to raise an objection, and eventually, you get to that design by committee approach where there's just too many hands in the pot, and the original idea, whatever it was, it's long gone. This is now taken on a life of its own. It's something completely different. It's a Frankenstein monster of everyone's different inputs and feedback, which can be beneficial, making sure all our bases are covered and things like that. But yeah, it can definitely be a challenge. Yeah, Tim says marketing and branding always freak out, and of course legal would fall into that category as well. Okay. Wow. Okay, some great stuff coming in the chat. I don't know if I can read all this. Catherine says some stakeholders don't like to see the messy workings out. I'm also wary of working out loud and initial possible ideas being voted for implementation before thorough design and exploration can be carried out. Yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, there's politics, there's not transparency, the gosh, what's that word I'm thinking of? Perception. Perception can be everything, especially in some organizations. So you don't want to be giving the wrong perception. But yeah, I think, it's a paradox because organizations could benefit so much from just being open and transparent, but then at the same time, everyone's trying to cover their own bases and CYA really. So it kind of hinders that and works against us. But yeah, so we've talked about the benefits to both us and organizations for working out loud. My next question would be, and this is more of a personal question, what's something, because we're in January, it's a few weeks in, but hopefully we're still in the mindset of it's a new year and we're working towards goals that we've set for ourselves. So what's something you would like to learn and develop for yourself this year where working out loud could be helpful and beneficial? Let us know in the chat. Okay, so tons of great stuff in the chat. I can't read all this, but thank you guys so much. Nicole says, thinking you'd have to build more time into the project plan if you're putting the work out to more eyes and feedback for extra iterations and reviews. Yep, now we're getting more into the point where we're basically just a public project at this point, more than just sharing collaboratively. But yes, definitely. And Q is talking, I think, about the design of the Pontiac Aztec from a toaster. Okay. It's definitely a strange car. I'll give you that. Yeah, Alex says working out loud also establishes trust and things move faster when there is trust. Yep, exactly. Trust is hard to earn and it's a two-way street, but once you can get there, especially in a working context, you can achieve a lot of great stuff. Alex also says, my goal this year is to be out here in the wild more with the PLN, Personal Learning Network. Yeah, working out loud amongst your personal learning network can also be very beneficial to yourself and others, definitely. So less of in a work context in my organization that I work for, but more from a community aspect, fitting in with the TLDC theme could have lots of benefits to working out loud and sharing your work on places like LinkedIn and Twitter. Christina says, I want to learn BI, business intelligence tools, and how to work data that way. So more of data and analytics side of working with data within a business context, I'm assuming. So yeah, definitely something worthwhile to learn. Deborah says, we are revamping our new hire orientation. Working out loud will be helpful in that space. Definitely could be. Definitely. Getting the experiences of recent new hires, someone that has gone through existing programs and getting their feedback, it could be definitely something that could be helpful. Kate says, improving our engagement with online training. That's her goal. Great. Kara says, yes, I trust my L&D family a ton. They've reviewed my resume, talked me off ledges, etc. Yes, I can definitely attest to that. I've probably talked Kara off several ledges at this point. Kim says she agrees with Deborah. There have been many folks chatting about that already this year. Alex agrees. I trust most of my L&D family. You're either a lion or a snake. Okay. Kara replies to Deborah, I just designed a new hire program, orientation program. I can't believe how many acronyms I know. I'm just going to throw that out there. BI and NHO. Anyway, I just designed a new hire orientation program from the ground up. And if you want to schedule some time to chat, we have some lessons learned. Awesome. We're working out loud right here, folks. How cool is that? Catherine said, when I was working out loud around 2014, I put something out on Twitter, which John Stepper actually picked up on. He sent me a review copy of Working Out Loud. Such generosity, and you never know who you will meet. Oh, that's pretty cool. Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. All right, so let's moving on. What do I have next? You guys have some great examples. So just for me personally, late last year, I started a YouTube channel, It's called eLearning Out Loud. If you know me, I like plays on words. Got the Instructional Redesign podcast and eLearning Out Loud YouTube channel. So yeah, gosh, we started this podcast in 2017. It's hard to realize it's been that long. But I knew going into it that unless you're just a huge established expert in something and you've done things numerous times, like if it was my 10th podcast or it was my 10th YouTube channel I was launching or whatever it is, you go into it hopefully knowing that the first thing you produce isn't going to be your best work, because you're slowly going to get better the more you do it. The problem is with something as public as a podcast or YouTube channel, all of that is going to remain for everyone to see into the future indefinitely. So we're almost like to 30 episodes on our podcast, and the farther we go, the harder it is to go and listen back to that first episode. And when I started a YouTube channel, I was just like, I'm fully aware that this is what happens, but I'm just going to go with it. And I came up with the title first, but then I'm like, you know what, let's actually make this more of a working out loud journey. So I'm not going to worry so much about getting my lighting and everything, all my things exactly how I want them before I even launch my first video, because knowing myself, chances are I'll never get it off the ground. But if I just use this channel, lean into this title that I've created for myself and make it a working out loud journey, then over time, it's actually documenting my process of improvement. And I think it's coming out pretty good. As far as, when I started, I was really struggling with my lighting and my camera setup. And I have so much more respect for photographers now that know how to change their camera off the auto setting and fine tune aperture and f-stops and ISO on the fly, because I have this room. Once I got my lighting right, my lighting is stable. Nothing is ever going to change. And it took me forever to get that right triangulation of those three things. So to be a photographer and to just be out in the wild and know exactly how to adjust those things on the fly, I have so much respect for that. So that's my little story about where I'm at in my working out loud journey as far as my YouTube channel is concerned. Got some more stuff in the chat here. Catherine says, I'm actually here today as I attended your Crowdcast ID sessions, and I thought I would search the platform to see if there was anything interesting happening today. Yeah. So if you're not familiar, let me just give a little plug to TLDC. I am normally not hosting. Luis Malbus is the host of TLDC, and it's training. Oh my gosh, the learning and development community is what it stands for. And the C is fluid, as I like to say. So today it's standing for cast and community. And we have the TLD chat, which is our Slack channel that you can check out. If someone could drop that link in the chat, that'd be great for the Slack community. And Luis has also launched the TLD campus now, which is hosted on AirMeet. And if you're subscribed to the newsletter, which I highly recommend, you will see that in February, there's going to be a TLDC community day or something like that in February. I'll let him announce that stuff. I should bring him on screen here at some point if I can figure that out, and let him talk about that, because there's some other stuff to announce around that as well. Bring him on his own show. Yeah, I've taken over for today. Yeah, Luis, just let me know when you want to hop in and say something. I'll let you in. But other than that, thank you guys again for participating in the community chat here. That's really helpful for today, because I probably had 15 minutes of content. So the fact that we're half an hour into it and still going with more stuff to talk about shows that you guys are really chatting it up, and I appreciate that. So, and my next question is more of a thinker, which is, so now that we've established what working out loud is, how, as learning and development professionals, can we promote working out loud to the benefit of others, either in our organization or just broadly as a community? How can L&D promote working out loud to benefit others? And while you guys are hopefully posting answers to that in chat, I just want to say there's no easy one answer to that, but there are several possibilities. I think we can encourage others to work out loud, obviously. And in our organizations, we can recognize where that's already happening, because it's a natural thing. We don't need to call it working out loud before we can actually do it. It's a natural thing that people do. But by calling it working out loud and recognizing it, I think we put some more structure around it and get more benefit out of it. So we can recognize where it's already happening, and we can come in and kind of reinforce that and draw attention to it, so others in the organization can see that and see the benefit of it, and hopefully it can kind of get picked up and become something maybe more formalized. Maybe you, in an organization, you actually want to form working out loud circles like John Stepper outlines in his book. Make it more methodical in that way. And we can also lead by example. We can work out loud ourselves and show people what it looks like and what the benefits are, and what are the platforms to do it through in the organization. Is it blogging? Is it wikis or Confluence, knowledge bases? Is it recording yourself on video and sharing, step-by-step walkthroughs on different systems and things like that? There's tons of ways that we can lead by example and show people how to work out loud. So answers that you guys have put in chat is, Kara says that we can encourage and lift each other up, and we all start somewhere. Nicole says, start doing it. Participate in it and lead the way. Kim is replying to Alex there. Kate says, as an ID newbie, posts like Jonathan Hill's make the field seem so much more accessible. So that's going back to on the Articulate forums. Jonathan Hill is posting a lot of great stuff there. So that's where the challenges are kind of hosted and the conversations occur, is in the forums. Actually, I guess it's tied to the post where they announce the challenge, but they're very tied together, and it's definitely a community over there in the Articulate community. So yeah, seeing examples from people like Jonathan Hill and others that post their work. And Jonathan stands out in that he often will talk through how he put something together and even share his source files, so people can download it and deconstruct how he put something together, which in a tool like Storyline is so helpful to see, oh, okay, this is how an expert puts together layers and triggers and things like that. Learning through the example of others in that regard can be really helpful. So props to him for doing that. Kate says, Kara, your walkthrough at the beginning of the month was also incredibly helpful. Thank you. Yeah, Kara has, I think this is what Kate is referring to is Kara has a YouTube channel herself called Unfiltered ID, and she has been putting out some great content. In particular, she went through a series where she talked through basically building something using TechSmith Camtasia. So she walks through the entire process of how to put that together. And I think it was a 4-part series. So yeah, useful stuff on her channel as well. Awesome. And Louise says that that's a great point from Kate. Working out loud can really build connections and your personal learning network. Alex says content is king, and Kara content is king, and Kara is its queen, and ours, to be frank. Yep. Janine says working out loud from so many has helped me by understanding what you're thinking as you go instead of just seeing the end results. Hearing the thought process is invaluable to me. Yeah. There's this phenomenon that happens where if people aren't working out loud and you're not seeing, how the sausage gets made and all the hard work that goes behind the scenes, and you're only seeing the polished final product, you're not seeing all the the hard work and iterations that went into that, you can get the perception that, well, it just comes so easily to this person, or they're just so good at it, and I'll never get up to that point. But by working out loud, we can kind of show people that, no, this is actually difficult. This does take a lot of work. We might happen to be experts and know ways to kind of shorten the process or make things easier, but it's still a lot of work and it's hard. And yeah, so working out loud has that benefit as well. Kara is saying that to remember that her YouTube channel, it's unfiltered, so she's not as perhaps polished as I am. Okay, so we have a few questions in the Q&A box. Oh my gosh. Dave asks, at what point in a project should one start working out loud? Maybe use a course, for example. That is a great question. So if you guys have some thoughts, put them in the chat. But so, let's just go through the ADDIE process. So you're in the analysis phase. You may even want to start there. You might want to ask around, has anyone, I've encountered this. Has anyone encountered something similar? And how did you solve that process? Yeah, design as well. Yeah, I'm kind of coming up blank, but about where the best place would be. I mean, it would obviously, all great answers are, it depends, but I would definitely say, yeah, that's a really tough one. But I'm sure there's some great answers. Let's see if anything in the chat comes up that can help you there. Kim asks, are there ways for a freelancer consultant to work out loud while staying within the bounds of NDAs and confidentiality restrictions? What kinds of things can be shared without risk of losing one's contract/job? Is there enough benefit to others when you can't share as much? Absolutely. So, and I'll give you guys a glimpse into one of my future videos that I'm going to put on my channel. I'm working, creating some storyline courses for a fast food company that I won't name because I don't want to, get into the territory that Kim is describing. But I created a quick, really down and dirty game activity. You'd be hard pressed to call it a game, but it definitely has, it looks like a game, and it won't, it has the look and feel of a game, but it's really, the way I created it was really simple. And you could just leave it as that. It's basically just, it looks like a game board, and it's just click to reveals, and you could take it further and turn it into a game with activities. But I created that for this fast food chain for their courses, but I'm going to recreate that on my YouTube channel because it doesn't breach the NDA or anything else to recreate what I created. It's not like it's the concept of what I made is now the property of that fast food chain. So I'm going to recreate that video to kind of show people how they can quickly create a game board activity without sharing the actual course with the game activity in it. I'm just going to recreate it. So recreating things is one way. But yeah, it's definitely, you really have to be careful that, you're not like, hey, look what I'm working on. And then, all the proprietary information is being shared. You definitely want to be careful about that kind of stuff for sure. Alex says, anytime is best to work out loud. The sooner the better. I can't say whether or not it's Popeyes, but he says, I hope it's Popeyes where the sandwiches are $2.99, but the hands are free. Don't want to shake up the shack, says Q. Okay. Next question. I should mark these as answered. Next question comes from Kara. She says, what is the line of truly working out loud and being a blowhard? Wow, that is just, there you go. She is unfiltered, folks. Where is the line? I mean, I guess it comes from the intent of why you're working out loud. Are you just maybe flexing that expert muscle a little too much just to kind of come off as, hey, I'm an expert in this field? That I think would qualify as what Kara means by blowhard. So what's the intent of why you're working out loud? Is it really to collaborate and share your knowledge with others to benefit them? Or are you being a little too self-focused on what the benefits are of why you're working out loud, I guess? And Luis was kind enough to put in some questions. So we got through. If you have more questions, put them in. We got a few more minutes left. So yeah, we got a little bit of time. So I'll tell a story about working out loud. And this falls into the building credibility and expertise thing and how that leads to opportunities. So my first job in my career was working for a computer and electronics retail chain. It was Micro Center. I don't know why I worked there like 10 years ago. I don't know why I don't call them out by name. I worked at Micro Center, which if you're not familiar, it's Best Buy, except they don't sell like washers and dryers and stuff. They're mainly just computers and electronics, that kind of stuff. So I worked at Micro Center, and at the time, I was on a training team that was only 4 people. So it was my manager, 2 instructional designers, and then they brought me on because they originally saw a need for having people or having a person that could do graphic design and e-learning development and things like that because they were backlogged. So that's how I got my job. And then over time, we as a team were tasked with hosting lunch and learns for the company. And I think it was, I forget if it was weekly or biweekly or whatever, but it was often enough that we quickly ran out of topics that we were knowledgeable enough in to host these lunch and learns on. So at the time, I was really in my shell. I would never do anything like this. Didn't like getting up in front of crowds and talking and things like that. But eventually, we just ran out of so many things that I had to start hosting some of these things. And the one I hosted several, but one of them was on PowerPoint. And because I did that, and because of the timing shortly after, I guess someone in the company or some group really presented poorly, like their slides are really bad, that it really upset some folks, and they wanted to give them PowerPoint training. But because I just recently hosted that lunch and learn, they're like, hey, let's have this guy teach them how to be better presenters with PowerPoint. So this is kind of dipping my toes in the facilitation world. Previous to that, I hadn't really done much facilitation. And the sessions went well enough that I was considered the guy that knew PowerPoint for the whole organization after that. And I did not like that position. People would just come by and bug me about anything they needed with their presentation that they were working on after that point. And the organization was such that it wasn't really something that led itself to opportunities to grow inside the company because they were a mid-sized company and there wasn't really much room for advancement. So, aside from the benefit of helping others, it was just kind of a pain to just kind of have to stop what I'm doing and go help others. But so that's my experience at Micro Center. And then the next job I took was at a giant healthcare company. And, because they were a giant enterprise, there was a lot more incentive to share my knowledge across the organization. And also, originally I sat on the enterprise training team. So it was kind of in our wheelhouse to kind of share expertise and things out to the rest of the organization. And at the time, other training teams that were scattered around the organization. So in that instance, I saw a benefit to establishing myself as an expert in e-learning development and how to use Storyline. And I was being incentivized in other ways to create a lot of blog posts and just help people out to help them with Storyline and stuff. And I was actually angling to kind of make it some kind of full-time job where I could be like the e-learning guy for the whole company and like create, get guidelines and things like that. So that was an example where I started to build my expertise, and that led to lots of opportunities. And I was seen as the resident expert in e-learning across the organization. And that helped me when I made a move internally to join another training team that was out in the business, and really helped my capital, if you will, when I worked at that company. So yeah. And I've said this before that, when you give more than you take, it has the paradoxical effect of you get more in return than you were anticipating or even perhaps wanted. So that effect was definitely in effect there, and it helped me out in my career for sure. And now here I am. I got a YouTube channel where that's kind of the whole point of it, is to openly share my knowledge about things that I know, like articulate storyline and different stuff like that. So that's my story around working out loud. Let me scan through the chat here. I don't know if I read this already. Nicole says, this is helpful for me in stretching my brainstorming of how I can work out loud outside of my ID team, to continuing to collaborate and iterate early on others' perspectives, thoughts, ideas, etc. Awesome. Rob says, I just received an e-learning certificate and I'm looking for work, but lack work experience. Do you know of any mentorship programs to help newbies on what is needed to find a job? I know there are definitely lots of experts out there that can, help in the job hunting world. You can find them on LinkedIn, and there are lots of different resources. As far as job hunting, actually on TLDC here months back, I gave a 4-part job hunting series that you can find on YouTube. And on our podcast, Instructional Redesign Podcast, Kara and I created a 2-part series as well on that, where I rehashed a little bit of what I talked about in my TLDC series, and went a little bit further. And then Kara had an episode where she talked about her experiences as a hiring manager. So you might want to check out those episodes and give you some insights into both perspectives of the job hunting field. And looks like other people are giving Rob some good advice. Kara says there are plenty of coaching services that also call themselves mentors. The incredible Louis Smallbus is someone who I consider a mentor, and he's never asked for me. He's never asked for my credit card number. Yeah, definitely, by being plugged into the TLDC community, it's definitely helpful. It's a great resource. And if you're not, get plugged into the Slack channel and don't be afraid to ask questions. That goes for everybody. And people like us that are maybe a little more experts at certain things, we can always chime in and answer some questions, because we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, we all have ways that we can help each other out and need help as well. All right. So we got about 10 minutes left. Luis, do you want to hop on and talk about things going on over in the TLD campus? Okay. I need to figure out how to do that. All right, hold on, folks. I will bring Luis in. Oh, look at that. Invite sent. Okay, thank you guys so much for participating in the chat today. It's so helpful. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you so much. You can hear me, right? Yeah. Cool. Hey, so Joseph, what do you think would be the quickest path to like starting to work out loud? If that was something like, that I wanted to do, or somebody out there's like, I just want to be able to broadcast like what I'm doing right now, what would you suggest? Would you
mean virtually?
Yeah. Would you like just to be able to like establish connections and get people to see what you're doing? Would you recommend LinkedIn or starting a YouTube channel, or is there, because you've done some research on it.
Mm-hmm. There's kind of obstacles and barriers to getting lots of things like that set up. YouTube in particular. But both YouTube and LinkedIn now have the ability to just go live on video and be recording something or sharing something. So that's definitely a possibility. But I think if you're in an organization that's using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something like that, just scheduling something, putting something out there on people's calendars that it's an optional thing that they can attend, and just maybe you need a little bit of upfront explaining to what working out loud is and why you're doing it, but just be open that this is going to be a working out loud session where I'm going to be sharing X. If you want to join, it's optional, but you can come on in and we can work through some stuff.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. Well, let me yeah, no, because I've considered that too in building the community, being able to work out loud, but just like everybody else, I have no clue exactly how to do it. So maybe that's something that I'm going to jump into soon here. But let me say thanks for for letting me come in. I do want to be able to tell you guys about Community Day, which is something that I built out. And in lieu of like trying to do a big virtual conference or something, I just wanted to do something that was more of a celebration and something that was fun and help people connect. And it's called Community Day. And I'll tell you guys, just to be transparent, the reason why I called it Community Day is because I was walking around with my son a couple weekends ago, playing Pokemon Go. And we were actually doing a community day in Pokemon Go, and he was having like an incredible time. He was chasing around, different Pokemon characters, and it was like, it just inspired me. And I had been thinking, like, if I were to do another virtual event for TLDC, what would I call it? And rather than do something like a collective or some other, a summit or something lame like that, I decided just to do Community Day. So and Kara posted on there, basically Community Day it's something that is a TLDC member thing, so you'd have to be a member, and if you want to join it as a member, you can just go to thetldc.com. You can sign up there. It's going to be really fun. We have so far like 6 sessions, and I'm opening it up to all kinds of vendors, and there's going to be a bunch of tables, sort of like I sort of modeled it a little bit after Demo Fest in a way, because I was a part of that so long ago. But check out the landing page that Kara posted, and it really is going to be focused on connecting. Although we're going to have some excellent, of course, quality content, connecting is really what I'm all about with this community, because as you can see, there are quite a few people that are really, really tight and have gotten a lot from each other by being a part of this community. And it's really a kind of a fun and fascinating thing to be a part of. So yeah, give it a go if you can. Let's see. And I also want to like throw in there this other thing that we've got going for members right now, and Joseph talked about a little bit, which is TLD Campus. Let's see here. Here we go. And TLD Campus is something for members as well, where on Wednesdays I'm starting to do my own broadcasts, where like last week we talked about a no-code solution called Webflow, and that was a lot of fun. Before that, I did a little thing on Camtasia and GarageBand, which is how I post videos and podcasts. And tomorrow I'm doing one on creative burnout, because it's 2021 and I'm already burnt out. But and I wanted to talk about that and talk about some of the solutions I've come up with to try to make sure that I don't completely, collapse. But check it out. And the other thing about TLD Campus, and I had just started talking to Joseph about this a little bit with Quetzal too, is we're going to start some office hours there, where I'm hoping that TLDC members will come in and just like be at a table available to others for certain times here and there, and I'll post them. So if you have questions about something like storyline for Joseph, you can just jump in and meet him at a table and just talk storyline for a bit, get some questions answered. And I think it would be really, really helpful for folks out there to have a resource like that. So Yeah, and I see your email there, Dan. I will definitely hit you up. I'd love to have you in community day. And I'm also, if you join the Slack group, I am going to be posting ways that you can join community day for free without having to buy a membership and all that stuff. I would just want to make it available to everybody, but you know, air meat is definitely something I still have to pay licenses for, so I do have to charge for it. Anyway, yeah, and that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, the office hours is a great opportunity. Like people were asking earlier, how could I work out loud, or where could I get started? You know, if you're a TLDC member and you want to work out loud, office hours could be a good way to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and maybe that's something I'm going to do. And you know, really, like on the campus, the last two events that I've had in there, it's kind of, I don't know, like for some reason, I really like the conversations that I've had in there with people. There's, who was it? Zelda Morales has been in there. Bethany Klein has been in there. Joe Quetzal. It just, it seems kind of, I don't know, maybe because it's, you know, I don't want to say exclusive, but I don't know. There's something about it that I'm really enjoying at this point right now. And that might be a really good place for me to do working out loud. And anybody else that, if you're a member of the community, let me know. I would love to help feature you in whatever, you know, if you have any projects or anything you want to show off, please reach out. And I'll put my my email address in there for you guys. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on today. And again, thanks to people in the chat for being so open and sharing. It really turned out to be a good session.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thanks, Joseph. And I'm looking forward to continuing, you know, watching you on YouTube and listening to the podcast. I think that it really is great how transparent you are and very, very practical.
Awesome. And I guess I'm in control. I have to end the session, so I think we'll end it there. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. See you guys later.